Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, I want to talk to you again and educate you again about the Baker Act and specifically with regards to an incident that happened down in Miami. I'm going to put a link to the article that talks about what happened in the description to the video. But here's what basically happened. Police were called to the scene of an incident down in Miami Gardens. There was an individual there who appeared to be in crisis. But apparently when the police got there, this individual was armed, according to the article, well armed. And it appears that there was some type of tussle between the police and this individual, and he ended up getting shot and killed. Now, just so we're clear here, this video is not about me taking sides about whether it was justified or not justified or any of that stuff. The reason the police were called was because the family was hoping that that law enforcement could initiate a Baker Act and get this person to a place of safety. And look, the Baker Act, it can be initiated by the police. But here's where my concern is, and I think this is a point I've probably beaten to death at this point, but I'm going to make this point again. The Baker Act is not a treatment statute. Okay, it is not designed to treat anything. And I get calls. I think the office gets calls probably at least once or twice every single day from people who call and say they want to Baker Act their loved one. And our response is, why? Well, I want to get him into treatment. Then don't Baker Act him, because that's not what it is designed for. And when you Baker Act somebody, either involuntarily or voluntarily, because there's two types of Baker Act, your ability, your right, even if you are designated as a healthcare proxy to make medical and mental health decisions for this individual, is terminated. It's the state that now becomes the new legal guardian, and they get to determine what happens to this person. And so the only time that the Baker Act should effectively be used is when it's a true emergency. I'm talking about a life or death situation. Now, obviously, if this individual was threatening somebody with a firearm, then yeah, you call 911. That's what it's there for. But it just the gist of the argument seems to be, or the article, I should say, is that they were trying to get this individual some help. I don't know what preceded this, what services he had or had not received. But what's concerning is that it got to the point where the police needed to be called. And so I'll put a link to the article here. And actually, one of the things that was said here in the article by a member of the family, they say, I feel like when you call the police for a mental health issue, they need to send someone out that is trained in that. Someone that can kind of talk that person off the ledge. And I think there's some truth to that. I happen to agree with that statement with the family member who's now lost a loved one. And it says in here, I guess a police spokesman even said, as it relates to the call, the responding officers had completed crisis intervention training, also known as CIT. But look, when we use the Baker Act, especially with the police, we're asking the law enforcement to make a clinical decision, right? Knowing very little about this person, if anything, unless it's been disclosed perhaps in the 911 call. And all they're sort of basing their decision on is what they see in front of them. And if they have a violent individual in front of them, that's when things can get out of control. And if that violent individual also happens to be armed and or has access to firearms, then yeah, things like this can happen. And again, I'm not saying it's justified. I'm just telling you what can happen. And so my message to you, as it always is if you have a loved one who has a behavioral health issue, drugs, alcohol, mental illness, don't wait for things to get worse, because this is a progressive disease and it does get worse. And somebody can become violent. And then you do need to call the police, and things like this can happen. And so if you're a family out there who's watching, and you have a loved one that's been suffering and your family is slowly being destroyed, give us a call. We'd like to talk to you about what options may or may not be available to your family. If you have any comments, any questions, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you don't like what the police did, if you do like what the police did, let me know. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I'm certainly open to the idea of, opposing views, and maybe you can convince me otherwise. If you want me to make a video about an issue that's come across, your proverbial table, as it was, I'd be happy to do that, because if it's an issue that's obviously confronting your family, it's probably an issue that's confronting lots of other families too. And I'm here to try and give you the information you need so you can decide, do you want to have a conversation with us? So thank you for tuning in. I would love a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.